And then there were two. Welcome into Gamecocks Game Day. Tyler Head and Elijah Campbell live with you out at Jay's Corner, a restaurant and bar at the corner of Rosewood and Bluff, getting you set for South Carolina and Coastal Carolina coming up today at 4:15. And unfortunately, partner, these are indeed the last two games of the season for the South Carolina Gamecocks, coming off of a crushing defeat last week, which we'll get into coming up here in just a couple minutes. And I hate to say it, the vibes are not great right now heading into this matchup.
We've been here now. I know this is my third football season here, so my sample size in terms of what the vibes are like in the program is limited.
Yeah.
But I covered a 5-7 season in 23. You were here for a 5-7 season in 23. I don't think the vibes have ever been worse.
No, and that season,
here,
at least going into the Clemson game, you had 5 wins. A win against Clemson would have at least gotten you to a bowl game. And that's something we bring up a lot, or have brought up a lot here in these last couple weeks. A Beamer team has never not been playing for something. I know he put out the hypothetical state championship thing after last week's game, which
giving Flint, Michigan Mega Bowl.
Yeah,
Flint, Michigan Mega Bowl.
And look, people can laugh at it, but if that's what motivates your team, that's fine, because you obviously don't have a bowl as that carrot to dangle in front of them anymore. So I think we're all intrigued to see what level of care they have, what attitude they have coming out here today. Because again, the goal, which again at the beginning of the year was to make the playoff, it shifted to, hey, can we at least get to a bowl game? And now that's gone out the window. So I think a lot of us are curious to see what kind of South Carolina team runs out of the tunnel today against Coastal.
Well, this is a real stress test of what your program is mentally, not just your team, what your program is, right? When you lose a game in the fashion you did last week, it is human nature to kind of be like, well, okay, we have nothing to play for. We blew our biggest opportunity to beat a number 3 team on the road, up 27. Human nature tells you there is a hangover, right? And this is ripe for a hangover game. But what good mentally tough programs do, not just teams, but programs do, is have a coaching staff that keeps the room together, ends the year on a high note, and tries to get as much momentum as possible. Because when things like, if you drop a game today or you underperform in a game like today, buddy, then the vibes are even worse going into at least a rivalry game that may not be important to your season in terms of what you do in the postseason, because there is no postseason, but it's a game that will always be, no matter what or how good either team is, a game that will always be relevant in the state, right? It is a culturally significant game in the state of South Carolina that even in years in which neither team performs anything close to what the expectation is, it still matters. You've got to be able to prove today that you've rallied the troops around to at least be able to participate in said game and make it to where your fan base feels confident that you're going to be able to get that and win bragging.
And this is a scrappy Coastal Carolina team that we'll get into a little bit more later on in the show that is very capable of coming in here and beating you if you're not playing at your absolute best. Again, on paper, Carolina is the better team, but if they come out unmotivated, sloppy, and slow, then Coastal will come in and take your money and go back up to the coast with a victory.
Well, that's what makes these games dangerous, right? Like, one team is basically nothing else to play for in terms of postseason ambition. The other team is bowl eligible and also wants to be the top dog in the state, right? Nothing would boost the program at Coastal Carolina more than beating the flagship school in the state in their home stadium, right? There's nothing they would love to do more. They're going to make money by playing this game. They want to make money and say, hey, we're the state champs. We're the best team in the state. And they have a chance to be able to do that today.
Well, and for a lot of programs, when you suffer a loss the way that South Carolina did, that is one of those games that years down the line we're going to look back to in an either positive way or a negative way. We say, okay, that was absolutely rock bottom, and they got better after that because they used that as motivation to fuel whatever the success was that came after that, or, okay, that was the beginning of the end. They blew that game against A&M and never got better, and then a year from now we're talking about a different person coaching this team or something along those lines. And again, it all starts today with how you come out and respond. And again, it doesn't have to be a blowout win. It doesn't have to be a pretty win. If you have more points at the end of the game than Coastal Carolina, you get your first victory in almost 2 months, and you can at least say, hey, we finally won something, and you can feel good about that at least for a short period of time.
We talk about this team every day, right? So even some of the more blatantly obvious facts kind of can go under our radar. And I didn't think about it till you just mentioned it. This team hasn't won a game in almost 2 months.
September 27th against Kentucky.
Which means that September 29th was the last reaction Monday we've been able to have on these airwaves talking about a win. I think your fan base needs this.
Yes.
Maybe more than the players. Like something to be happy about this year, because when you're 3-7,
Sure.
clearly there's not much that you can be thrilled with. And this is a kind of a juncture in the season where, like, look, don't have much to play for,
No.
but at the same time, like, you need to have something, because like sports supposed to be fun. There's supposed to be some joy in this too, right?
Mhm.
Which is why, like, you win tonight or you win today, celebrate it, enjoy it, because you just haven't been able to get much of this feeling this year.
Yeah, and we've talked about it plenty of times. It doesn't matter who the opponent is. When you go out there and do your job and walk off the field victorious, you feel good about that, saying, hey, we did what we were supposed to do, regardless if it's the number one team in the country or a team that hasn't won a game the entire year. So we're at least hoping for that. And you do have a fan base that throughout the season has showed its frustration many times. One of the last couple games we were here at against Oklahoma, the Fire Shula chants were pretty loud throughout that game. That move obviously ended up being made a couple weeks later, and I imagine there's a lot of people that support their program but aren't pleased with it right now, that if things aren't going good, if you don't start off this game well, they will let you know verbally how they feel about where this program's at right now.
Oh, I mean, Shark's already kind of out there for anybody. When you have a season like this, not just like having a season like this, like putting it in perspective, this is not just any 3-7 season. This is a 3-7 season where you're a top 15 team preseason, where in week number 2 of the year, when you were playing your first home game, you were the number 9 team in the country. You cracked the top 10. And to, after that point on, go 1-7, it's the frustration is amplified, right? Like that started a fire and you've thrown gasoline on it with how you played. And then when you just have a loss like you did last week, that empties the entire canister of gasoline. If you lose today and to Clemson, then you're putting a bomb on it, right? Like you're like whatever explosive you want to put in that already amplified fire is going to happen. Like that's kind of where we're at right now, is you're in last 2 games of the season doing damage control.
Well, South Carolina is a heavy favorite in this matchup. BetMGM had them last listed as a 24-point favorite yesterday. I talked to my guy, Corey Parson of the BetMGM Network, on how he viewed things with this line, and here's what he had to say.
It's hard to lay 25 points for some of the performances that we've seen basically really all season long. But you do mention something about Carolina not scoring over 24 points in a game offensively. So if you do like them, I wouldn't go ahead this week and lay that 25. Yes, they could do it at home, a spot where they at least want to get right, show some pride, whatever. But by the same token, I would look at this and say the smarter wager is on a Carolina defense or special teams touchdown. You can get that at plus money at most spots. That would be the wager I would make on this game right here.
Very rarely will you find a point spread that is more than the team's offense has scored at any point during the entire year, but 24 to 24.5 is more than they've scored in their best output, which was last week, of course, in the first half against Texas A&M, which was 23 points.
Yeah, and that's one thing to watch for today, too, because last week you had your first game under a new play caller. So then you got a real test, to see what Mike Furry does with an offense that has been broken all season long, and see what he has gets to do with it. In the first half, he showed, he clearly seems to be the play caller, right?
Yep.
You've not eclipsed 400 points, like let alone more than 3 touchdowns. You haven't eclipsed 400 yards in a game this season.
We thought they were well on the way to doing that last week.
You had 306, 307 in the half number 1. You're like, oh, you are more than on your way. And then what happens? You get a 76-yard half, and that is what messes that up, right?
Yeah.
And still, then you end up looking at the final stats at the end of the game and saying, well, still didn't get over 400. But you saw something in that first half, right? You saw some moving of the ball. You hit a couple of explosives, but you still have some issues in the red zone, right? I think if you're able to correct some of those red zone ones, and you have what, 4 or 5 red zone possessions where 3 of them are converted touchdowns, you're going to be able to connect on some deep balls today, right? Like the Coastal Carolina defense is susceptible to giving up explosives.
Yep.
Mike Furry loves to call shot plays. To his admission, in his admission during the week, during press availability, he did say that, they called 6 shot plays in the first half, 7 in the second. We could all do that math. That's 13 shot plays in the game, or where they're calling basically plays to try to get explosives. I think he might call more today, because I think the opportunity to hit on a lot of those is going to be there today.
Weather-wise, pretty beautiful day for late November. Currently pretty windy and cloudy as of right now. By kickoff, should be about 77 degrees with mostly sunny conditions. Some cloud cover as well, of course, as we get into the second half of this game. It will go into nightfall, but we'll still be in about the upper 60s by the time this game is over. So beautiful weather for a late November game. That's at least something to be excited about for today, if nothing else.
Oh, it feels fantastic out here right now. We're sitting here at Jay's Corner Bar, right across the street from the stadium, and sun's out. A little cloudy, but the wind feels good, so it's warm. The wind provides a really nice breeze. Like for a late November football game, yeah, there are a lot of places in the country that would kill for it to feel like it does here today.
That's right. As far as injuries go, only in this being a non-SEC game, we don't get the availability report this week. Jalil Solomon going to be out for South Carolina. Brandon Cisse is good to go. And last check, Nick Harbor is about 50-50 after he did have that shoulder injury last week on that catch on the final drive. Stayed overnight in College Station on Saturday. Came home on Sunday, so maybe a game time decision today for Nick Harbor.
Yeah, and honestly, if you're Nick Harbor too, I mean, if you tough it through and you put up another big, performance today. I mean, he had 3 or 4 catches for over 100 yards.
Yep, 102 last week.
So he's stacking games that are looking really good. He does have an NFL future where he's kind of climbing up draft boards a little bit because you're starting to see that production. You have seen the development over the last
we could be talking about the final 2 games of Nick Harbor as a Gamecock here in these next couple weeks. So you never know, and we'll see what happens with him today. All right, coming up next, we will relive that game last week one more time because we have to. And we'll also hear from Ryan Brewer as Gamecocks Game Day rolls on. Tyler Head and Elijah Campbell live from Jay's Corner Restaurant and Bar at the corner of Rosewood and Bluff, getting you set for the Gamecocks and the Chanticleers coming up today at 4:15 on your Saturday on the Game. Is Gamecocks Game Day. Tyler Head and Elijah Campbell live at Jay's Corner Restaurant and Bar at the corner of Rosewood and Bluff, getting you set for South Carolina and Coastal Carolina. Kickoff today at 4:15. Network will take over. Coming up at 1 o'clock, leading you right up to kickoff. It is time to rewind. And, well, if you just listen to those highlights, you would have thought it was a fantastic day for South Carolina and College Station. If football was a game comprised of only 30 minutes and 2 quarters, then we would be talking about one of the greatest upsets in program history. Unfortunately, it's 60 minutes and 4 quarters, and once they came out after halftime, it's like the team switched uniforms because Texas A&M played phenomenally in the last 30 minutes, and South Carolina, well, they did not.
Yeah, to say that was a Jekyll and Hyde type game would be quite the understatement, right? Like that was, you watched one half where A&M absolutely drooled on themselves in the first half, and South Carolina took advantage, was able to hit on a couple of explosives, was able to force a fumble to create a defensive touchdown. And, of course, A&M, like, again, dropping passes, missing field goals, playing uncharacteristic. Very rarely do you see a team go into the halftime break down 27, come back and end up winning that game. And I think what really started it was how fast A&M got on them. Because sometimes you see in games like that where the team that was down takes a little bit to get going in the second half, but then they end up making it like 30-17, having a chance to score, but not really cutting it back to a possession, or if you get it within a possession, maybe not having the time required to complete the comeback. But how you complete that is by striking early, and A&M, to their credit, after the halftime break, hit Carolina in the mouth on that first drive, got an explosive, scored a touchdown, and it was on from there. By that point, it didn't take them, Tyler Head, more than a quarter to get within a possession. That lead was lost with 10.5 minutes left in the game.
Yeah, and there was no more pivotal moment in that game than perhaps the first drive of the second half for A&M, facing a 4th and 12, down 30-3. They had to go for it. They were in the we're not punting in the second half mentality because they had a lot of ground to make up, and you thought, okay, 4th and 12. You got Marcel Reed in the backfield. He's got no receivers open. Unfortunately, there was a big lane of green grass. He doesn't use his legs a lot, but when he does, he's very effective. He got that first down, and the game was not over at that point by any means, but that was kind of where the this could be trouble kind of set in. They scored quickly after that, and then boom, 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 boom. Next 3 possessions after that, touchdowns, and suddenly you blink and South Carolina's down 31-30.
Yeah, giving up explosive plays, inopportune plays, right? Like the 4th and 12 is a big one. You had your own 4th down opportunity where if you convert, you have a chance to score a touchdown. And again, when you get into that type of game, settling for a lot of field goals or trying a lot of field goals won't win it for you. You got in a position where if you get that first down, you're able to take more time off the clock. You're able to get into the end zone and make them have to continue playing from behind and putting pressure on them, not just to score, Tyler Head, but to score quickly.
Yep.
You run it up the middle, play inside zone, which is the most used play by this offense this year, most used concept according to SEC StatCat.
Oh, we know.
And I think that matches the eye test for everybody that's watched this team this year. But you get stopped on that play. A&M doesn't just get the ball back and do something with it. They score a touchdown with it. And that is kind of like a microcosm of that entire second half. As one team made their 4th and long, you didn't make your 4th and short.
And for all the things that went wrong for South Carolina in the second half, A&M gives you an opportunity at the end of the end. They were driving in to make that score a lot worse, where they could have made it 38-30. Instead, they were in a trick play at the goal line, turns the ball over for South Carolina. Okay, 2.5 minutes to go. For everything that's gone wrong, you've got the ball, the opportunity to drive down to at least get yourself in field goal range to win the game. And it's like Sellers from the first half didn't exist. And went back to holding on to the ball, taking sacks. Now, there were some routes that probably weren't drawn up as well in terms of getting guys open where they needed to be. And it just was a microcosm for how that second half went. A&M gets the sacks, turn the ball over on downs, the needle at the clock, and obviously now the rest of the nation is laughing at South Carolina for the better part of the last 7 days.
You know what that last drive reminded me of? That LSU drive where it's 17-10, you get the ball as deep into LSU territory as you have all game. Because reminder, your only offense touchdown in the game was a 72-yard run.
Yep.
You did not take a snap inside LSU's 29, but you get to LSU's 29, right? And it's second short, like 2nd and 2, and next thing you know, it's 3rd and 18 near midfield because of penalties or stupid stuff or taking a sack.
The running back's not blocking.
That drive, you got a first down on the first play. So you didn't go 3 and out, but you got a first down. You get it to where it's 2nd and 1. And next thing you know, it's 4th and 16. It's the exact same scenario as it was in that LSU game where you get a second one, a very good opportunity to get 3 plays to move the chains from 1 yard out, but because of either penalties or bad protection or taking a sack, mental mistakes cost you to where now you're having to convert a 4th down in what feels like a mile, right?
Yeah.
That's when I watched that play on Saturday. That's immediately where my mind went, was sitting there in Death Valley watching that game and being like, oh, you have a chance here to now you're looking for a prayer to try to be able to win this game.
And again, you had done something because look, there's nobody outside of the Gamecock and Aggie fandom that had that game circled as a must watch last Saturday. Noon kick, a lot of other games going on, Notre Dame and Pitt, that kind of stuff. But when people look at the little score ticker at the bottom of the screen watching another game, like, hey, wait a minute, South Carolina, they got a 4-touchdown lead on it. Oh, let me get over there and see. I want to see this upset happen, see all the battered Aggie fans going through the emotions late in that game, and they watched it collapse. So, again, a team in South Carolina, for the most part, nobody's talked about for the better part of 2 months. They say, okay, you're not as good as we thought you were going to be. Disappointing season, whatever. We'll be on to you next year. Now they're talking about you for all the wrong reasons. They're laughing at you. Shane Beamer's pump up going into halftime, what he said after the first quarter, all subject to scrutiny, because when you blow a game like that, everything's going to be picked apart and examined. And unfortunately, Carolina's been in the headlines for all the wrong reasons this past week.
You'd rather live in obscurity than live in embarrassment. And this week, you lived in embarrassment. And that's kind of where the program's at. That's the type of season that it has been this year, where you've been out of the national eye. And, you know, you got the attention of the nation because as David Ubben from The Athletic, really good writer for them, tweets out at halftime, he goes, well, I didn't expect to be watching South Carolina, Texas A&M today, but I guess I am now.
Yep.
You got the attention of everybody because of what you did in that first half, only to show what you've really put on display for a lot of games this year in that second half.
And you're going to have to live with this identity until you go out there and do something great to cleanse the palate, so to speak, because people are going to keep saying, hey, you're the team that blew that lead to A&M, right? 4 touchdowns. You couldn't hold that lead in the second half. Until you go out there and do something like make the playoff next year, this is what you're going to be identified as.
You have to. Yeah, I mean, this is what today's for, right? Like, we talked about not playing for anything in regards to postseason, implications, but what you can play for today is respecting yourself and getting that taste out of your mouth and try to further remove yourself from what happened on Saturday. It's going to take a while to remove yourself from that.
It is.
But all we can think about with this team right now is losing a 30-3 lead, because it's the last time we saw them, right? Give somebody else something to talk about. Give them, I don't even say give reason to be hopeful, but give them, like your fan base, something to where that's not the last impression of you, is something like that. And if you lose today, then that conversation only gets worse. But damage control is kind of my theme for today's game.
Don't just take our word for it. What did our guy Brian Brewer think of the collapse last week in this game today? Our guy Terry Ford sat down with Brian Brewer for a little bit of brew earlier on this week.
And now, let's get some brew. Time to hear from former Gamecock Ryan Brewer on Gamecocks Game Day from Jay's Corner. Sponsored by LexMed Ortho on your flagship home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game.
Gamecocks Game Day. Elijah and Tyler hanging out at Jay's Corner, getting you ready for South Carolina and Coastal. Terry Ford catch up with our buddy Ryan Brewer, get a little bit of brew before the Gamecocks take on Coastal Carolina. Well, really, I mean, this is no disrespect to Coastal. Matter of fact, they're the one that's got a winning record, and they're the one that has got to 6 wins to be bowl eligible. But really, isn't this game about South Carolina, Ryan, and about just getting that stink from last Saturday off of you, and really the stink of a disappointing season, and trying to close this thing out hard by beating 2 teams in the state?
Yeah, it is. It's not even, last week is a tough one, I said, for everyone right now, from fans to coaches to players, everybody nationwide, to swallow what happened from the unbelievable first half to the just dismantling of a second half. But it is. We've been saying it every week, but it's a look in the mirror game, try to prove to yourself and your teammates out there that you belong, and let's get a bad taste out of your mouth type game too. But Coastal's no slouch. We know that they're going to come in here. They're going to give us everything they have, especially the first couple of series. You're going to see the best they've ever played, and you got to be able to take that, uppercut and come right back at them. And it's just it's a game right now for pride. It's a game for for when you're done playing. They don't understand this yet, but you're going to look back and all you're going to see is the record. My freshman year, I can see we were 0-11, but I also know what we did after that, how we built a program after that. But it's it's tough, and I know it's tough for the seniors, for the older guys that may be leaving. It's tough right there, but hey, you can still have a chance to go out on a positive note, beating 2 in-state teams.
Everybody, Ryan Brewer, get a little bit of brew before we get you back to Jay's Corner with Tyler and Elijah. Gamecocks Game Day, getting you ready for South Carolina Coastal. 4:15 kick with Todd and Tommy on the call here on 107.5 The Game in Columbia and our affiliate 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. All right, how do you get that bad taste out, Ryan? How do you shake it? You flush it, all those cliches. You've been through weeks where you had a tough loss or a game you should have won or a game that slipped away from you. And how do you – we always say this, okay, it's over. It's in the rearview mirror, move forward. Is it easier said than done, or as a player, that's just your tunnel vision?
It's you have to have the tunnel vision. You have to have that mindset where, it's easy for a player during a game. I say it all the time, that after that play's done, it's done that game. But I also know that I have to watch film on it. I also know that I still remember dropping the ball against New Mexico freaking State. So, and I've been done playing for 20 plus, almost, plus years. So as much as I say, I'm probably lying to everybody out there saying that that's tunnel vision, that I don't remember that, get the bad out of there. Because no, I have nightmares about when I played, had a bad snap, a bad play, bad whatever, bad block. I remember the bad more than I remember the good. And that's just part of how I am, but that's part of most athletes. And, the driven, they don't want to make mistakes. They don't want to be a failure. Nobody wants to be a loser. And right now, you still have a chance to go out there and try to dominate a team you should dominate against, which according to the spread you should. But again, a good team. But go out there, dominate, and that'll help out a bunch. You can't look forward to the next week, but if you do, as I can, because we're fans, we're not actually on the field, you can look forward to trying to go 2-0, and that will really get the taste out of your mouth, and that'll really have at least an upbeat going into the next year. But it's tough, man. It's tougher said than done, because these guys have to live with this and have to live with that game last week the rest of their lives. What could I have done to beat the number 3 team, in this nation that when we're up 27 points on? What could I have done better? What could I have done different? And it's a tough one for it's a thing every athlete goes through.
All right, be honest with me. What do you think of more? Your MVP in the bowl game, where you were phenomenal and made play after play after play, or the drop against New Mexico State? Which one do you think of more?
Oh, the drop, 100%. There's a drop, and even in the bowl game, they put me back into block. They put me back as a receiver, and I went to slot, and I think Corey Alexander had a jet sweep coming around the edge, and I had my guy, and I lost him, and still was like a 3 or 4 yard gain, but my guy made a tackle. I remember that more than anything, because I remember even coming off the sideline, Coach Pugh said, "Man, he had a hell of a game, but you just missed that damn block." It's like, so that's just part of it. I don't want to fail. I didn't do that on purpose. I was freaking tired, but hell, I should have made a block. So that's just part of it. It's part of the mentality and makeup of most athletes, that's what it's going to be. And you don't want to be, I don't want to have that thought, but it is what it is now. And so, anytime you do something bad in life, you got to figure out, all right, what did I do? How do I fix it? And how do I go on from there? And that's what this season, I was hoping early on, we figured out, all right, we're having issues with these type of play calls. We're having issues with this type of protection. We're having issues with this. We knew that we were struggling with the run on the outside perimeter, and we kind of buttoned that up a little bit. We knew, we struggled with some of the offensive play calls and trying to get those buttoned up, and obviously our protections and holding on the ball too long. Those things never have gotten better. We saw some glimpses of that in the last game. So it's time to, we got two games to rectify it at least a little bit and make it, go out on a positive note.
All right, Ryan Brewer, you have this guy named Ryan Brewer who sponsors your segments here on the old Gamecocks Game Day. Talk about your buddy Ryan Brewer from Ryan Brewer Fence.
Yeah, he's a decent guy that only remembers when we do something bad for a customer, which doesn't happen often at all. No, I got a fence company. I've been doing it for 20 plus years. So just go to ryanbrewer.net, check us out. And any type of commercial or residential fence, we can handle it for you. And that's from your ornamental to your wood, privacy, vinyl. We can custom stuff. We got a huge fab shop that can make anything your heart desires. And it's been fun with the team I have. And yeah, we do have ups and downs, just like season. But we're trying to win every day, at people's houses and putting up something pretty and secure and beautiful for everyone. And that's our actually hashtag is secure is beautiful. So you can look that up as well. But just go check us out and we'll take care of you.
Always appreciate you every week, my man. Ryan Brewer, former Gamecock. A little bit of brew on Gamecocks game day. Thanks, man.
Yes, sir. Go Gamecocks.
We'll get back in here with Elijah and Tyler at Jay's Corner. Take a look at Coastal Carolina. That is next. Gamecocks game day. 4:15 kick from Willie B. South Carolina and Coastal. You can hear it right here on your home of the Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game.
Again, it is Gamecocks game day. Tyler Head, Elijah Campbell live at Jay's Corner Restaurant and Bar at the corner of Rosewood and Bluff, getting you set for the Gamecocks and the Chanticleers today coming up at 4:15. Network coverage will take over coming up in a little over an hour, leads you right into kickoff. It is time to take a look at the 6-4 Coastal Carolina Chanticleers that come into Williams-Brice Stadium. They'd been on a little bit of a heater as of late. They had won 4 straight before last week's loss on the road at Georgia Southern. The big catalyst of that was their, at the time, starting quarterback, Samari Collier, who's really been the spark for this offense this year, getting hurt, suffering a knee injury. He will not be playing today. They will turn the reins back over to Tad Hudson, who had started at times earlier on the season. MJ Morris also started the season at quarterback after transferring in from Maryland, where he started his career at NC State. And you and I were talking about a little bit earlier, Samari Collier had been the straw that stirs the drink for this offense, particularly when it came to the way that he was running the football, and him not playing today is a huge loss for this Coastal team.
It is, because he's like the dual threat guy, right? Like whenever you have an offense that is maybe more a traditional style, one thing that can give your offense a little bit of edge is utilizing that quarterback run. And we've seen that all across college football, right? More quarterback runs, design quarterback runs than we've seen in a long time, because you get the advantage of the +1. The running back can be a blocker. Usually when the quarterback's handing it off, the quarterback's not going out there to lead block, right? And unless you're using a fullback, you're not getting a +1 in that type of play. But with a quarterback design run, your running back can block. You can't put a blocking back in there, or maybe an extra tight end and run some 12 personnel. We're seeing a lot of that this year. Georgia Tech does that a lot. Georgia's been doing that a lot. Like, you look anywhere in college football, you're seeing more design runs. And with Coastal Carolina, you get a lot of that with Samari Collier, because not only has he been the starting quarterback, I believe he's second on the team in rushing yards, with 429, right? Like, he's picking up 6 yards a carry on the season. He is a dangerous runner. You don't have that same element with Tad Hudson or MJ Morris, guys that are more pocket passers, right? You can run design runs with them, but it's not as efficient. They're not running the ball the same way that Samari Collier has. So Coastal Carolina's offense doesn't have that element to it, but there have been games this year where Tad Hudson has been able to move the offense up and down the field a little bit, because if there's any strength of this Coastal Carolina team, it is what they do on offense. They are not immune to scoring points.
Well, it's really funny when you look at their numbers. This team actually, by design, is supposed to be an air raid offense under Drew Hollingsted. But most air raid offenses don't run the ball a ton. They use the running backs in the pass game. But I think they kind of realized early on that, hey, this passing game isn't working out as well. Let's just run the ball as much as we can. And Samari Collier, again, really proved to run well with his legs. But again, without him, I guess you kind of revert back to focusing on things through the air. They do have a pretty solid running back in Javon Simpkins that is capable of carrying the rock too. Dominic Nicely, also a secondary back there. So they will be able to potentially run the ball a little bit, but it does seem like they're going to potentially put the ball in the air a little bit more. A good complement of wide receivers in their receiver room. Nobody's really stood out as a breakaway number one in that room. Did have some guys like a Jamison Tucker that 100-yard game last week, including a long touchdown against Georgia Southern. So they really do like to spread the ball around when they do throw the ball.
And that's one thing I do like about their offense. I think that is what true balance is being able to get the ball in the hands of a lot of guys. Even like for a group of 5 school, like recruiting a number 1 receiver who is just head and shoulders better than everybody else can be hard to do. So if you're going to run an air raid type offense, or if that's what you design your offense to be, you better have 5 or 6 guys that are capable of getting you a first down. That's what Coastal Carolina at least has. Now, with the way they've not been able to throw the ball like you would like to as an air raid team, you're only getting about 154 yards per game in the passing game.
That's not what Mike Leach wanted.
No.
Or Hal Mummy.
Yeah, Hal Mummy, or anybody that has run an air raid offense. That's usually not by design. Usually you're looking to get to 300 a game, and you're about getting about half of that. But you do have to account for everybody, because they will use any wide receiver on the field. You can look at a guy who maybe is on average getting you 2 catches for 26 yards a season, but you have to be able to at least account for him to be able to catch a ball and get 15 yards in any given play.
Defensively, there aren't really a lot of numbers nationally that they're really great at. Most of the things they rank in the hundreds, with the exception of takeaways. 15th in the nation. They've recovered 8 fumbles and got 10 interceptions. So they are opportunistic, which, again, we look at somebody like Lenore Sellers that has put the ball in harm's way quite a few times this year, turned the ball over when it comes to fumbles as well. So that's something that can put Coastal in this game if you are turning the ball over or careless with it, because they are opportunistic on defense.
here's the thing, yeah, and it all starts up front, like with the edge rushers. Like they've gotten 22 sacks on the season, so if you do the math, that's good for about 2.2 a game. But it's not the sack numbers that tell the story; it's the pressures, right? Like Zeke Campbell, 51 pressures on the year. Ibrahim Dewara, 35 pressures on the year. They get a lot of pressures, and they have really good, and if you take PFF grades into account, they've got really high PFF pass rushing grades. They win at the line of scrimmage a lot. And even if you're not getting a sack, you're forcing a quarterback to make a hurried decision. You're forcing a quarterback to have to play in a phone booth, right? And that's where a lot of turnovers can happen. This defense isn't very efficient. So I believe if you look at like a defensive efficiency ratings in terms of yards that they give up, they rank about 121st in the country. They will give up a lot of yards, but it's high risk, high reward. They might give up a lot of yards in the game, but if you turn the ball over 4 times, you're not putting up 40 points, right? So, and if you're Coastal, you're giving your defense a chance to set your offense up in good field position.
Right.
It's preferably not like to be that inefficient defensively, but that's where the high risk, high reward thing kind of comes into play. That's how you're able to erase a big deficit at Appalachian State like they did earlier this year. That's how you're able to score 40 plus points is you're setting yourself up for good field position. You're turning the other team over and you're able to survive maybe an offensive bombardment from your other team.
We always look at that third facet of the game as well. It is worth noting that Malcolm Gilly, one of their wide receivers, did have a kickoff return touchdown last week against Georgia Southern and is a former MAC Special Teams Player of the Year. So always got to watch out for that third facet. However, on the other side, they've given up both a kick return and punt return touchdown themselves this year. So that's something that South Carolina can potentially take advantage of themselves today.
I want to see Vakari Swain attempt to run back every punt today.
To break the record.
Yes.
He's only got one. He tied the record in week 2. If he gets one more, he breaks the single season record for punt return touchdowns. That'd be something great to at least cap off the season with if we get that today.
You get one bright spot. Yep. I mean, it feels like it's been a while since we talked about Vakari Swain returning punts.
And he's had some outside of the kick return touchdowns, punt return touchdowns. He's had some solid returns this year. He has helped you flip field position at times.
Like even his average is really high, right? I mean, he is one of the best return men in the country because even if he's not running it back for 6, he's setting you up in good field position. It's not like many times he only gets a yard or 2. He's picking you up an additional 10 most of the time after he catches the kick.
I guess when those offensive drives don't turn out to be anything, we kind of forget about it a little bit easier.
Yeah, the other issues. Now, if the offense was, at an acceptable level most of the year, then maybe we can focus on how good Vakari Swain has been. But when he's relied upon to be most of the offense, the conversation kind of pivots to something a little darker.
Right. And it's always important to remember when you're playing an in-state school at the FCS or G5 level, this is a massive game for those teams. One, Coastal is a good team that's already bowl eligible. Somebody in the state has to go to a bowl game at the end of the day. So it's not like they're a team that's bad anyway, but you got a lot of players on that roster from in the state that probably wanted to play at Carolina, probably wanted to play in the SEC, and because they maybe were a couple inches too short or maybe a couple steps too slow, Carolina was not interested in them. And especially in today's world of college football where look at somebody like Jared Brown that came from Coastal and is playing at Carolina now. You have a really good game against a team like South Carolina, you could find yourself on this roster or another SEC roster or something to that equivalent next year. This is a big prove-it game for a team like Coastal when they get to play South Carolina.
These essentially become auditions.
Yes.
Because these are the games that NFL scouts watch because you look at South Carolina, there are guys like Brandon Cisse, who's climbing up draft boards, Nick Harbor, Lenora Sellers, Jalen Kilgore, guys who are in legitimate first 4 round of the NFL draft discussions. We're in the press box. We see how many scouts come to the games. This is a game where you don't have a lot of scouts that are seeing in person Coastal Carolina.
Sure.
But if you're a Coastal Carolina player and you go in this environment and you make a lot of plays, you put a lot of really good tape out there, you can get noticed, right? The league has a way of finding you. So whether it be the league or whether it be maybe other schools that are watching South Carolina and scouting them, an SEC school, I can say, hey, this guy's getting to the quarterback against an SEC offensive line. Then that does bode well for you because now you're getting noticed. Now you're getting opportunities that maybe you wouldn't have had if you're not playing this game. I mean, for those Coastal players, it's not just patriotism and state pride and wanting to be the little engine that can knock off the big state school. You're auditioning for things for your career that could benefit you personally down the road in your football life.
So a lot of things to play for the Chanticleers coming up today. Again, kick coming up at 4:15. We'll take a look at South Carolina's offense, defense, and special teams coming up next as we continue on with the Gamecocks Game Day live from Jay's Corner Restaurant and Bar at the corner of Rosewood and Bluff, getting you set for today's game between Coastal and South Carolina here on the Game. All right, welcome back in. It is Gamecocks Game Day. Tyler and Elijah Campbell hanging out here on your Saturday, talking to the folks out here at Jay's Corner Restaurant and Bar. Trying to be therapist, I guess, at the end of the day too, for dealing with what's been a disappointing season, as we were talking about there during the break.
Yeah, I mean, that's when you have a season like this, you kind of just have to put everything in perspective and look at the entire body of what you've done the last few years. And that's what makes this so hard, too, is that you have elements of really good success, of some really good years. You have an 8-win year in 2022 where you ended the season eliminating 2 teams from a 4-team college football playoff.
Yep.
Miss a bowl game. Next year, you're in the college football playoff discussion. You win 9 games, right? You're in one of the best bowl games you've been in a long time, like a prestigious bowl game, right? The Citrus Bowl has a good history. It's where you want to play, right? And then this year, you have what you have in terms of missing a bowl game. And that type of inconsistency as a program leads you to have to, really look at some of the finer details to decide if things are going in the right direction, because it has been a year-to-year thing.
Yeah, and look, unfortunately, even if you obliterate Coastal and Clemson these next 2 weeks, that doesn't really change the perception of what this season is, because the expectations were so high going in. But you can at least go out there and do your job today if you can pick up the win against the Chanticleers of Coastal Carolina. Take a look at the offense, defense, and special teams. Again, we broke it down earlier. The offense in the first half against A&M was great, and we to the point where we're like, oh my God, Shula really was holding this team back. Like, what kind of voodoo did this man have over South Carolina? Unfortunately, it was not sustained in the second half where things went sideways. And I thought Mike Furry was very honest this week, and I appreciated that. When asked specifically about things that went down against A&M, he was like, hey, I should have done this, should have done that. He admitted that, they weren't conservative, and I don't think they were. It's just things didn't go the way they wanted to in the second half. Sellers made some mistakes in the second half. Now, the 4th and 1 play call certainly could have been a lot better, but compared to Shula, who I think just tried to kind of give us word salads when it came to owning up to things, I appreciated Furry and the honesty that he gave us.
In directness, right? I think Shula spoke a lot in generality.
Yeah.
And Preston put it really well during the week. He said, Mike Shula talked about what other offensive coordinators would like to do, what your average offensive coordinator is thinking. But we don't care about that. We care about what you, the play caller, are thinking. And Mike Furry gave us what he was thinking during those moments, right? Mike Furry is a more aggressive offensive coordinator. He loves taking shot plays. That's why they took 13 of them against Texas A&M. And he said he might have gotten a little too aggressive, which I appreciate. At least the explanation, right? I think what I'm looking for is maybe seeing more of what you did really well. I like what South Carolina did when they had a split backfield with Lenoris and having Jawarn Howell on one side and Matt Fuller on the other side. I like that you gave Jawarn Howell more carries. He picked up almost 10 yards a carry on Saturday. Maybe there's something there that you should have utilized all season long, and maybe we see a little bit more of that today.
And one thing that he did pretty well last week in that first half, I went back and kind of charted the numbers. They did a lot of pre-snap motions. They used over half pre-snap motion on over half of their snaps in the first half. It went down to about a third of them in the second half, but it was at a higher clip overall than what Mike Shula was doing. And that obviously keeps the defense on their toes, force them to be honest about what their coverages are. And I do think that helped out Lenore's Sellers a lot. So I'd be interested to see if that's something they utilize a lot more today too.
And it should be. I mean, you've seen a lot of numbers this year where South Carolina's passing game is significantly better when somebody's going in motion.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about putting somebody in motion is it does a lot of things. Exactly what you say. Sometimes it makes the defense have to reveal what their coverage is or reveal what they're doing, right? That's why a lot of teams in the NFL do it.
Mm-hmm.
But also, it helps get guys open, right? You look at the Detroit Lions. Nobody utilizes motion better in the NFL than the Detroit Lions, right? Like just the other night on Sunday Night Football against the Eagles, Amon-Ra St. Brown was going into motion. And as he is getting to the line of scrimmage, they snap the ball. He goes up through the C gap in between guard and tackle and then cuts upfield to go into his route. And guess what? That forces the corner, Cooper DeJean, who is guarding him, to have to run through a sea of linebackers and linemen to have to go get him. And by the time that DeJean is free, Amon-Ra St. Brown is 5 yards ahead of him in wide open grass and is able to catch a pass and pick up 20 yards. You're able to make defenses have to be honest, have to be able to account for that motion, have to be able to pick up another, a receiver on the other side of the field, and it creates a little more confusion, right? It diverts your attention away from what maybe your initial assignment is. So, like on a football perspective, so on a raw football level, using motions are always a smart way to go. With this team, we've seen it really successful throughout the years, but maybe not utilized. And that's one of the biggest, if not the biggest frustration I think I've had with Mike Shula's offense this year. in the 9 games that we saw in 2025 with him calling plays, is that you would see some things work and then go away from it, whether it's play action, whether it's using a lot of pre-snap motion. You would see things that worked in small sample sizes and say, why don't we see how much this works in a large sample size in a game? And Mike Furry did that at least in the first half.
Shula is notorious for using those things specifically on the opening drive of the game and then abandoning them for the rest of the game. It's like, hey, man, we play 4 quarters. You're going to get about another 50 or 60 plays. Let's keep that kind of things going. And that's, again, why he's no longer the offensive coordinator here. But we saw good things out of Furry last week. Hopefully that carry over into a more 4-quarter performance this week. Defensively, again, you got to stop the run. That seems like it's going to be the MO for Coastal Carolina today because that's what they've done best this entire season against Murray Call. You're not there, but we've seen South Carolina at times be able to stuff the run, and hopefully that's the thing they're going to be able to do today.
And I think so too. Coastal Carolina is not going to roll out a Joe Moore award-winning offensive line. Like, you had struggles stopping the run this year, but you played against offensive lines that were better, right? Better run blockers. Really, the only game where I was like, oh, that was an inexplicable run defensive performance is Oklahoma, because Oklahoma has not been able to run the ball on anyone all year until they played South Carolina. But you saw one of the best running teams in college football, Texas A&M, average less than 3 yards a carry.
Yep.
Right? That's significant. That's an offense that, even with no Le'Veon Moss, I get it, Le'Veon Moss didn't play, but there have been many games this year where Le'Veon Moss didn't play and Reuben Owens goes for 100, or Reuben Owens is picking up 5-6 yards a carry, or Emmitt Smith is able to go in there. E.J. Smith, right? In clarification, not that Emmitt Smith. The son of that Emmitt Smith. Pick up 4 or 5 yards a carry. You didn't allow either of those backs in that game to be able to do that against not just good running backs, but an elite offensive line. Don't be surprised if A&M's offensive line wins the Joe Moore Award. They couldn't get pushed on the line of scrimmage against you. So you've seen what this run defense can do. I expect to see more of that in this game today.
And again, as I mentioned earlier, Coastal Carolina has allowed a kickoff and punt return touchdown so far this year. And again, with an offense that's not scored more than 23 points at all this season, can defense and special teams maybe generate some points for you today to help you make this hopefully a more comfortable win?
You hope to see it. You hope to God. You pray that you're not banking on it.
No.
It should not be a game where you're banking on it.
The last time you played a non-power team, you had to bank on it against South Carolina State, because that was a game where you relied on 2 scores, one of them being by Vakari Swain, and then the other being the with the scoop and score on deep. No, it was the 2 Vakari Swain punt return touchdowns that helped you pull away in that game. And you had some turnovers that set the offense up in short fields as well. So, yeah, hopefully you don't have to rely on those things today, but it would be nice to see some of that too.
Yeah, it would be nice to see it from an aesthetics standpoint, right? Because nothing's more fun than a punt return touchdown, or a kick return for a touchdown, or a pick six. Like, those are some of those fun plays to watch in football.
Yep.
They're just not the plays that you want to live and die on. And unfortunately, that explains the season this year, is that you've had a lot of those. You dominate turnover margin in most games that you play, and you're still 3-7.
Well, we'll get the lowdown with our guy Preston Thorne coming up next as Gamecocks Game Day rolls on live at Jay's Corner Restaurant and Bar at the corner of Rosewood and Bluff, getting set for South Carolina and Coastal. Kickoff at 4:15 right here on the game. All right, welcome back in Gamecocks Game Day. Tyler Head, Elijah Campbell live at Jay's Corner Restaurant and Bar, getting you closer to South Carolina and Coastal Carolina today at 4:15. It is time to take a look around the rest of the SEC in college football and see what's happening. It is only 12-17. It's only a few games in action as of right now. You've got Oklahoma and Missouri currently tied 0-0 halfway through the first quarter. Huge game for Oklahoma, who, quite frankly, I think won a game most people, with the exception of what you and Jack, didn't think they were going to win last week, as they are still very much in the playoff mix, number 8 team in the country right now. They can beat Missouri today and beat LSU next week. Brent Venables has got a team in the college football playoff.
Absolutely. Man, that game was so surprising because of how they did it, right? The offense wasn't good. It wasn't like John Mateer threw for 300 yards.
Right.
It was like they ran all over the place. They were just good enough. Like, Oklahoma is winning games this year the way Shane Beamer wants to win games at South Carolina. Defense and special teams carry, right?
Right.
Like Tate Sandell, maybe the most reliable kicker in college football right now. Definitely the shortest pants in college football right now.
Which frustrates Curb Herbstreit to no end.
I mean, absolutely irks him. I kind of dig it, man. Skies out, thighs out. But my guy Tate Sandell has just been banging home 50-plus yard field goals all season long. They won the Tennessee game by kicking long field goals, right? By stacking together those. They don't have empty red zone trips because they're able to make field goals. He's got infinite range. So they win games that way. He hit a couple of clutch ones against Alabama. Alabama missed a field goal that ended up being crucial. And they got it at pick 6 for the second year in a row that ended up turning the tide, pun intended, in that game.
Worth noting, Bo Pribula is playing for Missouri today. Obviously had that ankle injury a couple weeks ago against Vanderbilt, and I didn't think he was going to come back at all this year, so props to him for coming back. But that does give Missouri a better chance than if Matt Zollers was playing again, because, again, he's the third option coming into the year, so you can only expect so much out of him. So we'll see if Bo Pribula can have Missouri in that mix. They actually just put on a field goal, so Missouri is up 3-0 earlier in that one. The only other SEC game in action right now, Texas A&M up 7-0 about 5 minutes in against Stanford. I feel pretty good about A&M's chances in that game to get to 11-0 heading into the Texas game next week.
Yeah, I think we are a 54.5-point favorite. I like their ability to be able to cruise in this game. And Cortland Finnegan doesn't have any more eligibility for Samford, does he?
No, he does not.
He does not. No.
By the way, they've also fired their coach. They're on an interim right now, so
the 1-10.
The 1-10 Stanford Bulldogs. I don't like their chances against A&M today. Only a few real key matchups around the conference today. You got Kentucky and Vanderbilt coming up at 3:30. Vanderbilt still on the outside looking in when it comes to the playoffs, but if they can win today, they can win against Tennessee next week, make themselves 10-2. They at least make a strong case for getting themselves in.
Yep. Best thing that could happen to Vanderbilt is Oklahoma losing.
Yes.
If you're a Vanderbilt fan, you are cheering for Missouri in this game. If you're a Vanderbilt fan, you're cheering for Southern Cal, because you're probably able to put, they'll be tough. The conversation could become between Southern Cal and Vanderbilt if Southern Cal's able to pull
just
off
as we all expected coming into the year.
Yes.
Southern Cal and Vanderbilt, the two teams were debating to get in the college football
for
playoff.
a playoff spot. You're Vanderbilt, you got to take care of business today. And if you can, style points.
Yes.
Right? At this point, you need to look your absolute best, because now the games aren't just wins and losses, they're beauty pageants.
Yes.
You got to make sure you don't have any blemishes.
Arkansas taking on Texas. Arkansas still seeking their first conference win of the season. Texas, we think, is eliminated from playoff contention, though if they could win today and beat A&M next week, they can make a case for themselves at 9-3. We'll see. They got to take care of business today first.
If a 9-3 Texas team makes the college football playoff, this thing might be a farce. I understand 9-3 would insinuate a win against Texas A&M, but at the same time, Florida is 3-7. You lost at Florida. You're one of Florida's 3 wins.
Yep.
At that point, I don't care how good Florida is in the metrics. I know what I see. They fired their coach. We should probably put that into a little bit more consideration. Their chance to entrench themselves into the picture and keep them in it was against Georgia, and you can't lose that game by 25 points.
Here's the committee argument: they're Texas. That shouldn't matter, but it does.
Shouldn't matter, yeah. And then somebody has to be an adult in the room and say 9-3 Texas, who lost to. So if Florida loses today, they'll be 3-8, and if they lose to Florida State, they're 3-9.
Yeah.
That's what Florida's got. Florida could very feasibly go 3-9.
They very well could, though, and that's the other main game in the SEC today. Hosting number 20 Tennessee in a place that Tennessee has not won since 2003. I was 7. I guess you would have been 8 at that point in time. Yep. It's been a while since Rocky Top has won down in Gainesville.
I still remember watching that game at my mom's photo studio, which she has not had in over 15 years. Still remember watching that as a wee young lad.
Yep.
That game was so long ago. that Preston Thorne was playing college football because when I asked him, do you remember who the quarterback was for Tennessee the last time they won at Florida? He goes, Casey Clausen, because I remember my scouting report. And I was like, yep, that's how long it's been.
And both those guys are in their 40s now.
It's been so long. And you know what's so really funny? Tennessee's gone to Gainesville with teams that are better than Florida's and still just can't find a way to win at Florida. They just can't. Like, that is like the most Tennessee Vol win repellent building on planet Earth.
And again, on paper, Tennessee a much better team, but there's something about a team that hasn't won in a venue in a very, very long time that makes you go, well, maybe that streak continues. And again, we've seen Florida, since firing Billy Napier, play Georgia close, play Ole Miss close last week, but also get the doors blown off by Kentucky. So I have no clue what version of the Gators we're going to see today.
We're going to get the almost beating Georgia. I can promise you that. I can promise that because, we can debate all day long whether or not ghosts are real. But one thing we cannot debate because we have too much empirical evidence, sports ghosts are real.
That's right. That's right. Looking around, and the rest of the SEC is mainly just cupcake games. Alabama playing Eastern Illinois, Georgia playing Charlotte. So not expecting too much out of those games.
Snoozers. Around
the rest of the conference. The number one team in the country right now is in action, that being the Ohio State Buckeyes, as they are currently tied 0-0 with Rutgers in the first quarter of that one. Again, I expect Ohio State shouldn't have any problem with Rutgers in that one.
31.5-point spread for a reason.
That's right. And then they'll go into, obviously, next week's game against Michigan, trying to end that streak because they haven't won that game since 2019.
Sports ghost.
That's right.
And guess what? Michigan kind of been out of the picture nationally.
Yep.
Sneaky good.
Sneaky good.
Like
and
a sneaky good football team.
It is in the big house, by the way, too. Last year's game, obviously, Michigan planted the flag at the middle of the horseshoe. I'm just saying, and this is going to be at the same time as Carolina and Clemson, I will have an eye on that game to see if Michigan can do it once again. And Ryan Day can go into another zombie-like trance afterwards.
This is what YouTube TV is for.
That's right.
To be sitting in that press box and just having a tab open. And peeking in during breaks.
The only other ranked team in action right now, number 13, Miami, 7-0 lead halfway through the first quarter over Virginia Tech up there in Blacksburg. Miami, it's weird. I feel like they're being gaslit right now. They're not going to make the ACC championship game, but on the last rankings of Real show, they're penciled in as the ACC champion because they're the highest ranked team. It's kind of weird. They can still make the playoff, but they're going to need some help.
They're going to need a lot of help. And I don't even know what the ACC's tiebreaker is, but you need like maximum chaos, right? Clearly you have to win against Virginia Tech today, and Virginia Tech is driving right now. They're inside the Miami 15, it looks like.
Yep.
So Virginia Tech's on the move, but you got to win. You have to win out, clearly. And then you're going to need a lot of those one-loss teams to get loss number 2, and your hope is that you're somehow able to be one of 2 teams allowed in a massive, 6-team tiebreaker.
Yep.
But I don't foresee that being a thing either, because one of those teams you would be in that tiebreaker with would be some teams that beat you.
Yep.
So it's not necessarily in their favor in a conference that large.
Ranked versus ranked matchup that quite literally could be a ticket puncher to the college football playoff for the winner. Number 7 Oregon playing host to number 15 Southern Cal. I feel like we've not talked about Southern Cal a lot this year. Give credit to Lincoln Riley. That's team always going to be good on offense. They've improved a lot on defense. That's allowed them to win a game like a comeback against Iowa last week in the driving rain of all things.
One of the 3 days every decade it rains in Southern California.
That is a program that's gotten significantly better this season. And if they win against Oregon today, they beat UCLA next week, 10-2 team in the Big Ten with a win over, at the time, a top 10 team, they make a very compelling case for themselves. Of course, if Oregon wins and they beat Washington next week, of course, they're in no problem. But Southern Cal can really be a potential dark horse in this thing if they win today.
Because they don't have bad losses. Like at Illinois, it's a loss. They lost on the last possession of the game, a walk-off field goal. And Illinois is a team that's probably going to end up in the top 20 if their games hold. They can end in the top 20. So they could have a top 20 college football playoff win on the road, or a loss, not win. So that's like one loss. The other loss being against Notre Dame, who the more the playoff picture is shaping up, Notre Dame seems like they're going to be in. So your loss would be to one playoff team, one top 20 college football playoff ranking team, and then you'd have a win on the road against, at the time, a top 10 college football playoff ranking team. Yeah, I think if they win, they are putting themselves in a great position. We haven't talked about them as much because locally there's just not a lot of interest in Southern Cal. However, that's a team that I personally have been very interested in all year long because they have been fun to watch. That offense is awesome. Jade Mayava may be the least talked about great college football quarterback right now. And Mekhi Lemon is maybe the best receiver. Maybe your Biletnikoff winner for this year is Mekhi Lemon. there's a lot to be intrigued with Southern Cal. And if you just haven't watched them a lot this year, maybe worth having that game up as a second screen today.
Another game to talk about. This one quite literally could be for who goes to the ACC championship. Pittsburgh, who was ranked last week, got knocked out of the top 25 after their loss in Notre Dame, a game they didn't care about apparently, according to Pat Narduzzi.
Apparently.
Taking on Georgia Tech, who right now I'd say is probably the favorite to win the ACC. However, Pittsburgh wins. That puts them in the driver's seat to make the championship game, and Georgia Tech could potentially miss out if both Virginia and SMU continue to win out.
It's all about playing your best football at the right time, Tyler Head. And as good as Georgia Tech has been this year, as fun as they've been to watch, their defense has been an atrocity the last 2 weeks.
They got lucky to escape against Boston College last week.
They got their doors blown off at NC State, where, their quarterback looks like he is all world, right? Like he ends up putting up a record-breaking day, and then you go to Boston College and spot them, 35 points?
Yep.
Like they scored 30-plus points against one of the worst teams in the Power 5, or Power 4, if not the worst team in the Power 4. Defensively, they're going the wrong way, and I don't know how well you can survive a game against Pittsburgh when your defense is starting to look like that the last couple of games.
Got to show some love to our guy Carlton that always helps us set up out here, out at Jay's Corner and Bar. South Carolina State, his alma mater, playing for the MEAC Championship today, coming up in about 30 minutes, up in Dover, taking on Delaware State.
Championship on the line. One of the best stories in all of college football is that Delaware State team. Deshaun Jackson taking over a program that has not won a conference since 2009, I think. Or 2007. I think was the last time Delaware State won the MEAC. And in the last 15 plus years, they've been a really bad program. One of the worst in all Division I. Deshaun Jackson in year one of that program, undefeated in league play, playing for a conference title today. They have to go to Dover to win that game. South Carolina State does. But this is a really good opportunity for Coach Chennis Berry, former Benedict College coach, to have a second MEAC championship in his 2 years at South Carolina State, and give them an opportunity to win a Celebration Bowl.
That's right. So looking forward to that. Again, that game coming up today at 1 o'clock. We'll come back. We'll give our final thoughts. Also talk to Jack Belcher, who is in West Virginia right now covering the men's basketball team, but we'll be reporting on the game today for Gamecock Central. That's coming up next as Gamecocks Game Day continues. Live from Jay's Corner, Tyler Head and Elijah Campbell here on the game. All right, welcome back in Gamecocks Game Day. Tyler Head, Elijah Campbell wrapping things up here from Jay's Corner Restaurant and Bar at the corner of Rosewood and Bluff, getting you set for the Gamecocks and the Chanticleers of Coastal Carolina. Coming up today at 4:15, as always, in the last segment, bringing in our guy, Jack Felcher from Gamecock Central, not on location here in Columbia today. He's actually up in West Virginia covering the Greenbrier tip-off, where Jack, unfortunately, men's basketball did fall to Butler in their opening game yesterday. How we doing, man?
I'm doing good, fellas. Thanks for having me on, as always. And, yeah, it feels a bit weird. I just got done eating lunch at the local Applebee's here in Lewisburg, West Virginia. So it feels weird doing that and then going back to the hotel and watching football before the game later on today. I feel so out of sorts.
Yeah, Jack said he's got a hotel with an Applebee's and a movie theater right next to it. And I'm like, that's perfect.
Honestly,
that's all you ever
a good
need.
location. I don't think Jack ever foresaw this year that he'd be spending a Gamecock football Saturday eating Applebee's in at an Applebee's in West Virginia. Don't think that was on his bingo card.
Probably not, right?
Yeah, no, definitely not on my bingo card at all. Already saw a movie here.
All right. Well, we've been talking about it all morning long. Again, whatever happens today, next week, doesn't really change the perception of what this season is for South Carolina. But going out there today and winning against Coastal can at least maybe cleanse the palate for how embarrassing that loss last week to A&M was.
Yeah, to some extent. I think you'll have a better feeling if you win this game because it'll be your first win in about 2 months. But, I mean, it doesn't really erase how this season has gone. It's been a disappointment, no doubt about it. But, you know, for today, you definitely want to go out here, play well, honor the seniors, and have a good game.
Yeah, in terms of offense, too, I guess the big story was, you know, scoring your defense scored 23 points in that first half. You're able to get over 300 yards of total offense in the first half. Second half, a completely different story. With Mike Furry now calling the plays, what is kind of your expectation for what type of offense we see in this game and maybe some lessons learned from the mistakes that cost you last Saturday?
Well, I think, Elijah, it's basically what you did last week, right? In terms of that first half where you had the 300 yards, you had the 23 points. You want to go out there and use Lenore Sellers, like run some trick plays, get this offense moving up and down the field, run the ball a little bit. And then I think the lessons we can learn here are, okay, what did you do wrong in that second half? Well, I think everyone wants to say they got conservative, but I think they got a bit aggressive and a bit ahead of themselves at times. Just try to slow the game down, take it easy, and try to score as many points as you can.
Jack, final score thought.
I got South Carolina win this game 42-15. I think it's going to be a bit close at the start in the first half, but I do see the Gamecocks pulling away and taking care of business before Clemson next week.
Elijah Campbell, how about you?
Yeah, I got South Carolina winning 31-13. I think the offense takes care of business a little bit because of the opponent they play, and defensively, I think they'll be able to get what they want.
Yeah, I got 34-17. You may need a special teams or defensive score to help you out there, but I do think South Carolina finally gets their first win in over 2 months. Jack, enjoy West Virginia. Be safe coming back, and we'll talk to you Monday.
All right, see you, fellas. Have a good one.
All right, appreciate everybody here at Jay's Corner Restaurant and Bar. Network coverage coming up in just a few minutes. The SEC Port is next. This has been Gamecocks Game Day on your Saturday here on the Game.